So I'd like to do one on cassettes today. This one is actually for U2 Boy. Of course, this is for the British import version. It's got a cool red film at the start of the cassette, and it's got red print on the cassette itself. So that one is kind of one of my favorites as far as cassettes go. I have a few for U2 that are some of my favorite ones. Second was the Out of Control. This is kind of the U2 3 but on cassette. This actually came out 1979 on CBS, but it was later reissued onto a cassette in 1984, which is what this is. So that one's pretty cool. Out of Control, 2 B-sides, which actually would be the original demo version of Stories for Boys, and then Boy Girl, which actually was a B-side. So. Moving along to U2 October. This is one that me and Brett found the other day. I just haven't been able to do a video to kind of show some of my finds in the past week and a half, but that would be this one. This one's cool because it's got the yellow rather than the black border, which I think is a lot cooler than the black border. So you don't see too many with the different ones, but they're out there. Moving on, this one is one of my all-time favorite, not albums, but prints, or as far as cassettes go, the print on cassette, and that is this guy. This is U2 War. But you can see it's the Japanese cassette, so I really love that one. It's got the stick-on label with the Island Records label. But one thing that was my favorite about this one was actually the little sheet that came with it. It's kind of fragile here. This had some cartoon versions, and then it's got some kind of some cartoon versions of the albums. You know, there's U2 War, U2 Boy, and U2 October. But they're cartoons. B-side of the picture, and of course the lyric in English for the songs rather than Japanese. A lot of the Japanese imports had the lyrics in either English and Japanese, so that one actually just had it in English rather than both. So that one was kind of a find. I think I got this at a record store in Phoenix, probably 1995-ish, and I really love that print. It's not my favorite U2 album, like it is most people, but it's the cool version on cassette. But anyway, next is Under a Blood Red Sky. And this also is made in Great Britain. So anytime I find the import version of a cassette, I try to pick it up. Not just as it goes with my record collection and my CDs, but I really like picking up the imports of the cassettes because you don't really see those very often, especially these days. Next was this one. This one is... I'm showing this one because it's kind of different. It's U2 Unforgettable Fire, and it's got the same font on the cassette as it does the album. Usually it's just a kind of a block letter font, but this one's cool because it's got the white border rather than the full cover. And it's actually a different cover than the typical American, which was the full, and it was a closer up version of the band, kind of grouped together rather than a replica of the 12-inch, which just kind of has the band kind of sporadically really spread out in front of Slane Castle. That is the American one. This one, I'm showing because it's different. This is actually the Canadian cassette. And there are actually a few U2 cassettes. It's kind of cool because it's black. But that were only released in Canada. There was a Pride in the Name of Love cassette in Canada. It was the cassette EP of the 4 tracks, the 2 instrumental songs, and it just only came out on CD, 7-inch, 12-inch in other countries, but only as a cassette in Canada as far as I'm aware. This one is Wide Awake in America. And I've actually had this since I was in, I want to say grade 6? Or something like that. So that's my original from when I was small. This one is Canadian. And this is the Unforgettable Fire single. It's the mini cassette, but it's Canadian. Like I said, there was a cassette as well for Pride in the Name of Love. And also In God's Country also came out as a cassette in Canada. It only came out as a 7-inch in the US, but there was a cassette version and a 12-inch from Canada, which I'm still needing the cassette version, but I do have the 12-inch. So these actually I've had since grade 6 as well. This is my Joshua Tree cassette, and one thing that was really cool about this was the fold out, but mainly the widescreen picture. When I was 11, I saw U2 for the first time for the Joshua Tree tour, and there were people selling bootleg t-shirts with this kind of combined with the Irish flag on the front, and then on the back I had an Irish flag, and then just the Joshua Tree itself in black. And they were, I think we paid $10 to get one. Of course it's too small to wear it now, but not too much. The first single from Joshua Tree was Where's 27 Names? In 1990, I was reading in Record Collector that these actually were worth around $11, and I kept finding some for around $2. So every time I found one, I bought one, so I actually have a few extras. But this was, the cool thing about this were the B-sides. So actually, my favorite part about Joshua Tree actually are the singles, because of the B-sides. The B-sides were really good. This actually featured the original version of Sweetest Thing, which was later re-recorded for Bono's wife for their anniversary or something like that in 2000. Also, this has the original version of Silver and Gold, which pretty much everybody would probably know. Was later re-released as a live version on Rattle and Hum. Next was Something I'm Looking For. When I saw U2 for the very first time ever, they did Spanish Eyes, which was the B-side. And it was just amazing seeing it. And then later walking into a record store and finding these cassettes, and hearing the studio version of a song that I'd only heard live, because it wasn't out yet. But one thing that was cool actually about the U2, the cassette singles for this, they actually came in a long cardboard box, and I still have mine for, I want to say, Where's Street Center Name and With or Without You, but I don't, they're packed away somewhere. I'm pretty sure, or at least I hope so. Next was With or Without You. And the cool thing about With or Without You were, again, Luminous Times, Hold On to Love, and Walk to the Water, which were just amazing B-sides. So definitely my favorite part about the Josh Tree actually were the B-sides for the singles, because they were just so kind of unusual, but not really. They you can see why they were B-sides, but they should have been on the album. Next was Rattle and Hum. This is my cassette from when it first came out, and I still have it. But the singles, which, we'll get to the first one, was Desire. Now in America these came out as a cardboard slip sleeve. I was always picky about the condition, so I actually filed down carefully these pegs on the cassette, and I kept them in here to keep these looking new, and this actually does look pretty brand new. So it's been in there since 1989-ish, I guess, 1990. Next was The Angel of Harlem. And not a lot of extra content on the Rattle and Hum singles. They mainly just had 2 B-sides. Depending if you got the cassettes, they just had 1 B-side. This is When Love Comes Down featuring B.B. King, and it had Dancing Barefoot by Patti Smith, which was actually a pretty cool cover that was actually covered by quite a few of the bands I listened to, one being The Mission, and Susie and the Banshees, and Zymox all had a cover, so I made a compilation just for my iPod that had those bands covering Dancing Barefoot, because I think it's just a really, really great song. So next was, and I actually lost my Octone Baby cassette, was the singles though I still have. And this one is For the Fly. It's got a remixed version and then a B-side. And then, of course, Mysterious Ways, which was just the LP version and a remix, which I didn't really care for the remixes for that song. They all sounded the same except for the Massive Attack remix, which was only on vinyl previously. The third single was One. This was a cool one because actually a lot of the royalties for this went to AIDS research. Third, actually it was this one. It was Even Read the Real Thing with Salome and Where Did It All Go Wrong? It was the B-sides. And then Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, with 2 cover songs, one by John Fogerty and one by the Rolling Stones, which was Paint It Black. And the cool thing about these singles were if you put them all together, they made a picture of U2 sitting in one of the Trabants, which were a German-made car that basically just were made out of compressed laminated cardboard. And they were not a very good car. Which is why U2 had them for their set. They kept finding them all over that were just abandoned, so they took them in and artists painted them. Lastly, as far as like my U2 cassettes go, were Discotheque. I was back in the Midwest. I think I was either in Minnesota or Chicago, and I found a few of these Discotheque cassettes. This one's still sealed. I never opened it. I never opened either one that I bought because I had the 12-inch and the CD single, so I just never bothered opening them. But those are just some of my U2 cassettes, or I should say most of them. There's one that was kind of an odd one, which is my Rattle and Hum. This one's from the Netherlands. I'm going to open it here. The case has kind of seen better days, so I'm trying to baby it a little bit. This actually had 2 cassettes, so it was totally broken down. Rather than one double play cassette. It was a two single cassettes. But it had the same book, but just larger, with some pictures on the inside. And of course, the words for some of the songs, I don't know why they really did that, being that it was kind of a predominantly live album, but it did come with the words, which is always kind of fun. But those are my cassettes for U2. So hopefully you guys find that interesting.